Public Buildings Committee.
How are you all?
We're great. How are you?
Good, good. For Tuesday, I wish it was Friday, but we're good day, right?
Exactly. Okay, Brian, so I'm going to sit down and do my minutes, and when we're finished, I'll come up and take care of the phone. Okay, you just go ahead.
All right, so which building you want to start with? Do you want to start with Justice Center? Do you want to, are we just talking about the building over at Churchill?
Do you want to hear about the update at the Justice Center?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so we have completed the drawings to replace all the rooftop mechanical units. I'm in the process of reviewing those now. I worked on specifications for that last night. Marked them all up, got to the lady here in the office who actually puts all of it into the computer. Assuming that there's no issues with drawings that you all met and we get all our updates and everything completed, I think that we would be able to get at least the mechanical replacement piece of that project out to bid here sometime towards the latter part of next week. And then once that is in motion, we would begin work on start looking at the re-roof portion of it and the parking lot portion of it.
Brian, if you don't mind, can you explain how we talked about putting this out for bid?
Yeah, absolutely. Originally, we were talking about doing this all at one time, but based on some recent events, and I'm working with the school system there in Hawkins County, and we have a fairly large project to put in new HVAC units in a number of the elementary school gymnasiums, and we sent it out to bid. I sent it to a number of the HVAC subcontractors and a number of the general contractors, and we had the pre-bid for that project last week in Rogersville, and no general contractors showed up. It was only mechanical contractors who have a general contractor's license in the state of Tennessee. So what it appears is going on is the general contractors are so busy that you've got a number of the mechanical subcontractors such as HVAC, Comfort Systems, SB White. They would bid it as a prime, i.e. general contractor for this project that I was mentioning for the schools. So based on that, I had a discussion with Sarah and Martha yesterday to discuss options to try to get at least the HVAC portion out to bid, so that hopefully we would have just mechanical subcontractors bidding on it, so you all would save some money by not having the HVAC subcontractors markup and then the general contractors markup. So we thought maybe we ought to try this here for this mechanical piece for the Justice Center as a way to save you guys some money. And so that was the discussion that we had yesterday, and that's the direction that we're going in. So we will send it out, we will advertise it just like we normally do. We will note that it's, mainly a mechanical project. And so based on our, let me ask, any questions so far?
No, go ahead.
Okay. And if you all have any questions, please stop me, because I'm a hard charger and I go. So if I go too fast or I'm talking too fast, just tell me. So anyway, Sarah, based on our discussion yesterday, I had my folks price what they thought that the new HVAC, new controls, all the stuff that goes with that, along with general contractor overhead profit and contingency would cost. Are you interested in hearing that information now as well?
Is this for Justice Center?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Please proceed.
Yes, please.
Okay. So based on everything that we talked about for this mechanical piece, replace the existing units, new units to go on the roof. Controls upgrade, the fact that we're working in a jail situation, so there's going to have to be special, discussions with whoever winds up doing the project. A contingency built into it, overhead profit for whoever winds up doing the work. The number that I have is $1,187,500.
How many units is that?
Hold on, let me see here. I've got those drawings here. Hold on, give me 1 second. I'll pull it up on the computer.
It's 23 in it, Brian.
Yeah, it's a bunch. Hold on just a second. Here it is. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. It's 23, 24 units. And that also includes the split system air conditioner that we talked about for those two areas.
Now, is that just the equipment?
That's 25, 26 units.
Okay, is that just the equipment or is that installed, that price?
That's it.
That's everything he thinks.
Any questions so far?
Ryan, are all those units the same BTU?
Hold on, I can tell you that as well. They are, let's see here. They are all different CFMs.
Okay.
We've got 5,000 CFMs. We've got a number of 5,000 CFMs. We've got a couple of 6,000 CFMs. We've got a couple of 1,200 CFMs. Most of them, they are gas heat,
Right.
Electric cooling. There's a number of different sizes here. It goes from 2 tons all the way up to 12.5 tons.
That's great, thank you.
All right.
Is anybody else? You got anything? Okay, proceed.
All right, proceed. So, on the building in Churchill. So I have looked at the drawing. They are from 1994 when the building was last renovated for Citizens Bank. And that canopy, that green, that beautiful, in my humble opinion, that beautiful green canopy that's up there was installed at that time, along with a good amount of other work that was installed at that time. That included a bunch of plumbing work, that included a bunch of mechanical work. I'm sure you guys are aware that the mechanical unit that sits up on the roof is basically half of a split system unit. Part of the unit should be inside according to the drawings, and that mechanical room that is on the right-hand side of the building next to the men's and women's toilet and near the conference room. So you have that green canopy that's up there that is open on the bottom side. And so, based on the discussions with Sarah, we looked at this in a couple of different ways in terms of, well, and let me ask you all this much. I can propose, I can say, I think you should do this, or I think you should do that. Before I go to that point, I'd like to know, just from you guys, what are you all looking at? What's the reason for having the discussion about the roof canopy? Are you worried about the roof membrane itself? Are you worried about the canopy? Are you worried about the mechanical unit? Is there anyone that can give me a little bit of background as to when and why or how this discussion came up about the canopy, and then I'll give you some ideas as to what our thoughts are, if that's okay.
Brian, as we talked about when we first got together with this, we were told that the canopy that's up there is actually hurting the membrane. We had a building inspection, and the inspector said the membrane was at the end of its life. The roof has leaked, it's not leaking now. But we wanted to make sure before we put our equipment and everything in the building that, you know, we weren't gonna have a roof that's leaking and having the, if we're gonna have to replace it soon, we were gonna do it now before we moved into the building. And so, we didn't know which way to go. Do we put a gabled roof on it? Do we put a flat membrane roof back on it? And that's what we wanted you to give us your opinion on.
All right, well, and that's, and where you answered my question, perfectly. So, we looked at it a couple of ways. I've got all my pictures from when I was up there. You know, this is a membrane roof, as you properly noted. You know, these membrane type roofs will usually last, you know, 20 years, something like that, maybe a little bit less depending on, you know, there are a lot of trees around and other sorts of things. So whoever you had do the review, I would concur that the roof membrane is, you know, towards the end of its useful life. Having said that, you know, a good portion of the roof has that green screen, I guess you'd say, canopy that comes up and protects a good portion of the roof membrane. So that is a positive. So, you know, you could leave it alone. You could come in and infill the gap at the bottom and infill the gap at the top and move the mechanical unit down to the ground. That would provide that would address your concern about the membrane, except for around the edges of the building, which could be fixed and which could have a new membrane installed over the old membrane very easily. You could, you know, moving the HVAC unit to the ground would allow for, you know, easier, you know, maintenance on the unit. So there are a number of different options here, negatives there, but as I said, you've got a number of options that you could do here. You could leave it alone for the time being. You could replace the membrane. It would be difficult to replace the membrane with the screen up there. It would be pretty expensive to take the screen down. And then I guess the last option, which is what Sarah and I had talked about, was to basically infill that gap that's at the top, put some metal of some type at the bottom, replace and or go over the existing membrane around the edges at the canopy, and at the drive-through at the back. You could put some additional white membrane on top of the existing membrane back there. So you have a number of options here. Does that answer any of the questions thus far?
Do you have numbers? I mean, really what we were looking at, you know, is which way to go. That we wanted your opinion
Okay.
on which way to go, which would be the most cost effective and the best roof for the money.
Okay, so to take off the roof screen so that you could put a new membrane down is going to be very expensive. Okay, because you'll probably have to bring in a crane of some type to pull the screen off. You have all of those metal brackets that are basically attached to the existing roof. They would have to be worked around in terms of putting a new roof, membrane down on top. You'd have to take off the existing insulation. You'd have to put a new membrane down, and then you could or possibly could not replace the roof screen in basically the condition that it's in now for the long term. That's going to be a pretty expensive proposition. The building is approximately 3,291 square feet based on my review of the drawing. Let me ask you another question. The HVAC unit that's sitting up on the roof, is it 20 years old?
It is.
30 years old?
It's at least 20.
So here again, that's another piece of equipment that is getting towards the end of its useful life. So I spoke with one of the local HVAC folks that I work with a lot today on the way from Kingsport, and mentioned the HVAC. You know, as I mentioned earlier, the HVAC unit is a split system unit. So it has one unit that sits inside and it has the other unit that sits outside. He said something in the $5,000 to $7,000 per ton range for new HVAC, assuming that we replace both pieces using the existing ductwork. So, looking at 5 tons, 7 tons, and I can put all this into writing following this discussion. I'm happy to do that, as I said in my email to you earlier. If you wanted to keep the existing roof screen, put basically a cap in the middle, and take care of it that way. Provide some brake metal down below. I estimated somewhere in the range of $18,000 for that. So you're probably in the $50,000 range, and then you add general contractors overhead profit. You're in the $60,000 range to do that. My guess is that to take off the existing roof screen, take off the existing membrane, put a new membrane down, and then put the roof screen back is going to be more than the number that I just quoted. Then on top of it, you have to add the HVAC unit, since it's going on 20 years old as well. Actually, over 20 years old. And like I said, I'll be happy to put all this into a written document on our letterhead that goes over all this. Because like I said, there's a lot here given this roof screen. But you do have options. But I do think that keeping the roof screen on the roof, addressing moving the mechanical unit down to the ground is probably going to be the cheaper option, short of not doing anything.
You guys have any questions?
Well, I think he answered all mine. You did a very nice job presenting that. Thank you.
I very much appreciate you saying that.
Okay, Brian, if you will get that to me in writing, and then we can present that to budget,
Yep.
I would appreciate it. Does anybody else have any questions?
Do you have any other questions? Any concerns based on what I said? Anything at all?
Going back to the Justice Center, you said that we would potentially have an estimated cost on the roof. Did you give a timeline on that? I can't remember.
I did not. That's going to be the next piece of this.
Gotcha. Okay.
And again, that's going to be a discussion with Sarah to talk about what we need to do based on, once we receive the bids back for the HVAC portion of this, we're going to know how much money we have remaining from what she has already budgeted. So we're going to try to, at that point, to tailor whatever we do to get as close to her budget numbers as we possibly can.
So is the HVAC would be first, the roof second,
Yeah.
and then what we have left, we'll work on the parking lot. But I think that's the 3 priorities. And then if we do it in phases, then we would know if we could continue on.
Understood.
And one of the things that we talked about yesterday was when we did the HVAC piece of this, we'll have a bid form and it'll just have numbers for just the HVAC, the new HVAC units and everything that goes with that. When we do the second bid, we would have a base bid to re-roof the Justice Center, and then we would have an alternate for the parking lot, so you all would get numbers for both of those pieces separately, so you would know exactly how much those pieces of the tie are gonna cost.
So I guess, you're saying we're still gonna continue to have the HVAC on the roof at the Justice Center? Was
Yes.
that not one of the leading causes of all the issues we had?
It's too expensive to move it.
See, one of the things that we are gonna do is, and this is one of the things that Sarah and we had talked about was, cleaning of the ductwork. And correct me if I'm wrong, that's still something that you want to do, correct, Sarah?
It is.
Okay, so we're gonna clean the ductwork, and once the new units go on the roof, I noted controls earlier. Those controls are what is going to help alleviate the issues that you have with the mold in the space in terms of it being very damp and those sorts of things. Those controls are supposed to address that so we don't have a bunch of units running when they don't need to be running. And so all of that goes with the removal of the existing rooftop units, cleaning of the ductwork, a new rooftop units placed on the roof, and then controls for all of those new mechanical units, and that is supposed to address the moisture issues. Then throw on top of that the new roof membrane that's going to go on, and as part of the new roof membrane, we're going to address flashing and those sorts of things. That should alleviate the issues that you're having with moisture in the building.
Okay, I guess my concern is, all we've heard is that the, issue with the rooftop HVACs, or is that when they go up there to repair them, that you're damaging the roof as they're up there repairing them. So that's my concern. Are we gonna have the same problem that we've had previously? Because we're still having people on the rooftop repairing HVACs.
Well, so we're going to have new units first of all, and then when we do the new roof membrane, there will be walk pads,
Thank you.
which are basically thicker areas of roof membrane around all of these HVAC2, HVAC units.
Okay,
With any luck, if people stay on those pads and don't just walk wherever they feel like on the roof, that should address one of the issues that you just mentioned.
okay, that was my concern, because that's all we've heard, that's the problem was from people up there working. So if we're gonna have a pass, I guess it'll be our responsibility, once we get them up there, to make sure somebody's up there making sure they stay on the pad if they're repairing, so,
That's correct.
okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Anybody else got anything else you'd like to speak now? He's gonna hang up.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian, appreciate your help.
Pleasure talking with all of you, and if there's anything I can do in the future, please let me know. I'll get something over the next couple of days over to Sarah. If you all have any questions, please let me know.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you all have a good evening. Thank you.
I can email that out to everybody when he sends it to me. Do y'all have any questions on that?
That was a big deal.
Okay, I lost my agenda. Any other thing we want to talk about? We don't do a motion, we don't need a motion or anything on this. This was just for FYI, correct? Okay, any other questions or anything that anybody's got for Sarah on this part of the agenda?
I think we need to, this is pertaining to the Justice Center part.
Yes,
We may need to look at forgoing the parking lot because it's not that terrible a shape. And if it comes down to it where, the money is high for what we've allocated, the $3,090,982, the parking lot is not in that bad a shape. It needs to be addressed, but it's not a priority, I don't think. So that's the thing, we need to remember that. So,
well, I agree. I think we need to get the building
yeah.
in chip shops, get hit.
Tip top.
tip-top shape.
Close.
Get the building repaired, and once we get that taken care of, then I think we can look at, you know, the surrounding area.
If we put it all together and we couldn't make that number, then we would have to rebid it. So we talked about this yesterday, the way things are going out there, everybody's super busy. And if we just make each bid, you know, a roof, each bid, and
Yeah.
we feel like we'll get more people interested in the bid process that way.
Yeah.
Because a roofer don't wanna worry about HVAC, or the parking lot, so.
And if I may add to that, I questioned about putting them, as Nancy did, about taking them off. But those are direct units, all of your ductwork, and
Yeah.
it sits on it, so that's our problem.
And the way that jail is so chopped up, you have to have that. I mean, you couldn't have that air traveling from the ground, it would have to travel too far.
And when they're up there working on it, then it need to be understood that they're to stay on the walkways, not be just walking all over the
Yeah.
building.
Well, I think you're just gonna have somebody go up with them that,
They're gonna have to,
yeah,
because
because you and I both know that when somebody's up working, they're gonna do
Straight
what they
forward.
want, yeah, shortest distance between 2 points, so. And make sure nothing gets thrown on it that's gonna damage it.
Mhm.
Okay, any other discussion about, item number 4?
So I was gonna present the budget, and then my addition, this is making sense for you all, I think, because every year we present the budgets as is, and if we have an additional item, it's presented in a sheet by itself. So I would like to put the cost of the roof on that. Is that okay with you?
And he said it'd be in the 60,000 range.
That's what he said.
So you're just something, sorry, I'm clear, just something clear, you're just wanting the blessing from the budget committee to put the request, or blessing from the
Yes,
public buildings to
yes.
put
The
the
building
request.
and ground.
I'll make the motion, we'll go ahead and do that, if you want
Yes.
to action do that, we'll go ahead and do that, just to add it to the request.
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion? You wanna read that back so we can, I got it first?
I'm still writing it.
Okay,
So you're still freezing?
I'm still freezing.
And that motion was by John Gibson. Who was the second?
I'll second.
Josh.
Josh.
Motion to add the request to replace the roof at the East Hawkins County building to the budget committee.
And that was the cap in the middle add-on.
Right. I'll just put that in my presentment.
And then we as a budget committee will decide how to fund it,
Right,
like where the
right.
money comes from.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.